Hi guys, it's Ariana. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we're going to be reading some more scary stories. So as per usual, I have my wicked candle here, making my whole studio smell like caramel apples. If you hear any noise in the background, my dog is running around upstairs and you may hear him. And I can't really edit that out of videos, so it is what it is. You might just hear him zooming across the floor because he's kind of hyper today. But I have a bunch of scary stories that I want to read, and let's just jump on into them. So the first story is from the scary story section, and it's from the Reddit author Efficient_Rub_5484, and it's titled The Blood Test. Our blood is a reflection of who we are. With every crime we commit, it darkens in color. Only the cruelest, sickest individuals have jet black flowing through their veins. The police like to use this to their advantage, ordering blood tests on suspects to see the color of their blood. It was the perfect way to prove guilt or innocence, until it failed. I liked the system until it was me sitting there in the concrete interrogation room waiting for the test. My wife, Carolyn, had been murdered while I was at work. I came home that day and found her lying there, lifeless, in a pool of her baby pink blood. The police eventually connected the case to similar ones in the area, but still had no real leads. I hated the idea that they would think I would do this to her. I loved her, but I got the test anyway, in order to prove my innocence. After what felt like hours, a police officer entered the room. "Mr. Reading, you understand why you're here, right?" he asked me. "Yes," I replied coldly, as I lifted my arm to check my wristwatch. "This won't take too long, will it? I have an appointment I need to get to." "I wouldn't start making plans just yet, Mr. Reading," the officer said. The door opened again, and a nurse walked in and asked me to roll up my sleeve. I rolled up my sleeve just below my elbow and presented it to the nurse, who wasted no time sticking me with the needle. It hurt like hell, but this was for Caroline. The officer waited anxiously, convinced he had caught the killer. No matter how many times I insisted I wasn't home, the cops kept asking more questions with each passing day. However, his expression quickly changed as the shock came over him. The syringe was full of pure, white blood. The nurse had to look closely to even see the slightest hint of red. Sure, I might have faked sick as a child, or maybe cheated on some homework in school, but I was no killer. I would never take a life of another. Any evidence against me was dropped right there and then, because it would have been impossible for me to have pure white blood after committing murder. The police told me I was free to go. That was a mistake. After I left the station, I went straight to the doctor. The guy I went to specialized in synthetic veins, something criminals use to get out of trouble. They were made to seem just like real veins, just not connected to anything. It was inserted through two small incisions, one just above my elbow and one right under my wristwatch. It was filled with white blood that matched my blood type. I sat in the office, high on laughing gas, while the doctor removed the fake vein. My jet black blood spilled from the incision. And that's how they ended the story. So that's obviously a fake story. It's just a fictional story, but it's really fucking creepy, and I liked it. It was really good. So thank you so much for allowing me to read your story. That one was really fucking creepy and really interesting. It was very different than what we usually read on my channel. So thank you so much, and let's jump to the next one. So the next one I'm actually really excited to read. It is a really, really good story. I read it a couple of days ago and it had me hooked like almost instantly. So this one's from the No Sleep section, and it's from the Reddit author Worcester_Street. And this one's titled, "There's a Reason I Stopped Swimming in Indoor Pools." I'm not too ashamed to say I made some stupid decisions in my teenage years. Most of them resulted in a little more than scrapes and stories, though on more than one occasion, I found myself in the back of a squad car, pleading my case with an annoyed sheriff. No, me and my buddies would have told you that for the most part, we were relatively harmless. But one day, early in my senior year, I had an experience that still haunts me. A memory that I can't look at directly without a wave of goosebumps sweeping over my skin. Travis was the one who suggested it, of course. Travis was an undisputed king of trouble. Travis was the type of person who would suggest tying sleds to the back of his truck while we did burnouts in a snow-covered parking lot. It's been nearly 20 years, but I'm still picking pieces of gravel out of my elbows from that one. That's not the memory that keeps me up at night. I earned these mental scars on a crisp fall afternoon, still a month from the year's first snow. Travis had approached me and two of our other friends after football practice, his trademark chipped tooth making it seem like a crazy moonshiner. "I know what we're doing tonight," he said. "The hotel down on Highway 43 has bed bugs. We're going there with Leah and her friends." I shot him a confused look. "You want to get bed bugs?" "What, are you stupid?" he asked. "No, they're not gassing the bugs until later this month. In the meantime, the entire place is deserted. We're going to swim in their indoor pool. My uncle worked on their AC system a few years back, and he said that they never lock the back door to the pool house." My still underdeveloped brain did a quick risk analysis. Not about whether we should trespass and risk arrest, but whether I'd be able to lie to my old man about our plans for the night. I figured it was about even odds, so I agreed. Travis swung by my place later that night in his truck. Fortunately, my dad was out at church activity. If he'd been home, maybe he would have tried to stop me. Maybe I wouldn't have gone to the pool at all. Maybe none of what was to follow would have happened. I suppose there's no point in going down the long list of what-ifs. I joined a half-dozen friends in the bed of his truck, holding on for dear life as we careened around Main Street. The night was warm for early October, but the wind whipping across the bed of the truck was still cool and crisp on my bare legs below my swim trunks. He passed by a house where Leah, Travis's girlfriend, was waiting along with a few more girls and 2 cases of beer. The hotel was dark when we arrived. It was looking even more forlorn and forsaken than usual. Most of the windows had already been covered in the black plastic sheeting to prepare for the bedbug fumigation that would soon occur, cutting out almost all light. Not the pool house though. No, the interior of the pool house shone with a faint neon green light. We poured out of the truck with our cans of beer, peering through the still locked glass doors and the pool that lay beyond. The mysterious neon green light was emanating from a few exit signs hanging above the interior doors, and ran to the fence, leaping over it with a few confident motions before disappearing behind the pool house. A few seconds later, what sounded like a heavy door opened on the other side of the building. He reappeared inside the pool house, under one of the exit signs, the hazy green washing out the color of his appearance. He approached the door where we waited, then propped it open with a grin that displayed his half tooth. I'd like to tell you that I felt some sense of foreboding, that I was nervous, that I had some inkling of what was going to happen. I wish I'd felt something to clue me in. Maybe if I did, I would feel better about swimming nowadays. I didn't. We all immediately jumped into the water in a canopy of screams and shouts. A game of chicken was set up almost immediately. Jane, one of Leah's friends, hopped on my shoulders, fighting with Travis and Leah. We gave a valiant effort, but eventually lost when Travis swept my leg. At the time, it just felt like another night in a small Maine town. I got out of the water and downed another long sip of warm beer before walking over to the deep end. The signs along the side of the pool warned me in no uncertain terms that diving was prohibited and that the water was only 6 feet deep, that serious injury could occur. But perhaps due to the pleasant tipsy sensation I was beginning to feel, I dove into the dark green water anyway. I opened my eyes underwater, expecting to see a little more than green-tinged darkness, but instead of the dim bottom of the pool, I saw the shimmering surface of the water, and beyond that, bright lights. I swam towards it immediately confused. Had I been turned around somehow? Had someone turned out the lights? I rubbed the water from my eyes as my head broke the surface of the water, pure confusion taking over me. I was floating in a pool, but I was no longer in the pool house surrounded by my friends. Instead, I was treading water in a brightly lit pink, flanked by 4 high square walls that extended up at least 45 to several large fluorescent lights at the ceiling above. I swam over to the walls, looking for an exit or a place to rest. The walls consisted of smooth tiles and grout, the kind you'd see in a nice bathroom. I slowly swam around the 4 sides, but found no purchases, no exits, no markings of any kind. "Hello?" I shouted, my voice bouncing off the walls, returning my own greeting back at me from every angle. "Is anyone here?" Again, my voice echoed back for nearly 10 seconds before fading into silence. Not silence. Even at this distance, the instant buzz of the fluorescent lights ahead and a faintly audible over the sounds of my treading water. The next several minutes passed, with me alternating between calling out for help and trying to wake up from whatever nightmare this was. My arms and my legs were already beginning to ache. If I didn't get help soon, I'd drown. I thought back to my dive, back to when I'd first seen the shimmering surface of the water. I had seen it where I'd expected to see the bottom of the hotel pool. That didn't make sense to me, but a new thought suddenly occurred to me. I stuck my face into the water and looked down. The water was at least 20 feet deep, but at least it was clear. The tile walls continued down below the surface, and there, way down at the dark bottom of the pool, the ground shimmered, almost as if it was the surface of water. I felt myself beginning to hyperventilate, so I took a deep breath and leaned to float on my back. The water rushed over my ears, replacing the sound of the buzzing lights with a thunderous pulse of my own heartbeat. I floated on my back for what felt like eternity, but was probably no more than 90 seconds. When my heart rate had slowed down from thundering to merely drumming, I took a few deep breaths. Then I dove down and began swimming towards the shimmering surface far below me. The pressure built in my ears, but I knew enough to blow out my nose to equalize. After a few final panic strokes, I reached the surface of the water and the bottom of the pool and burst through. There was no neon green light on the other side, no sounds of my friends, nothing but pitch black darkness, and echoing drips of my breath returned. Gasping and sputtering, I appeared to be in a cramped concrete tunnel of some kind. The walls were rough and met with an arch just a few inches over my head. "Hello?" I called out again. My voice shot down the tunnel, in either direction bouncing off a raw concrete as it traveled into the distance. After a moment of terrified thought, I picked one direction as forward and started swimming, all too aware of my rapidly decreasing energy. I did my best to move straight, but the pitch blackness, I still found myself bumping my head into the concrete arch when I drifted, of course. I was bringing my arms forward to pull another stroke when my hand suddenly hit the tendrils of something organic and sticky. I jerked away in panic, bumping my head hard against the concrete ceiling. My left hand swung towards the other wall of the tunnel, where I met another organic tendril awaited me. They reminded me how an octopus tentacles at our local aquarium felt wrapped around my hand when I visited back in elementary school. I patted water for a moment, slowly reaching out. The entire surface of the concrete walls below the water were covered in tentacles. Then, the worst of all, off in the distance ahead of me, a distant metallic clinking sound grew steadily louder, like iron chains scraping against concrete. The tendrils on the walls responded to the sound, reaching out for me. The tunnel was still dark, pitch black, but I couldn't help but imagine some horrific creature making its way down the darkness of the tunnel towards me. These horrible scraping chains were rapidly getting louder, but the echoes made it almost impossible to tell exactly how far. I dove down in the water, searching desperately for any light. There, some distance below me, I found yet another shimmering spot. I came up for a quick breath of air, the metal on concrete coming close enough that I feared I'd touch it if I reached out ahead. With a terrified moan, I dove down once more, fighting off the organic sickness that attempted to wrap around my arms. I burst through this new surface and was immediately grateful that there seemed to be at least some light in this new location, even if it wasn't the green neon light I'd been praying for. I spun around, taking in my surroundings. Judging by the sudden lack of echoes, I was outside in a large open body of water. It was still nighttime, just like it was back in Maine, but I appeared to be inside a fog bank that limited my visibility and just a few feet in every direction. A single hazy point of light, the moon I assumed, shone through the fog in the distance. My arms, legs, and lungs burned in protest as I slowly treaded water. I paused for a moment, allowing the water to slip over my head, then fought back to the surface. I'd been treading water for at least 15 minutes without rest. If I didn't find a place to rest, I'd drown. The thought surged a shot of adrenaline through me. "Help!" I shouted. "Is anyone there?" The words had barely escaped me when the fog bank rolled past, giving me a very clear view of my surroundings. I was treading water on the calm surface of a lake. All around me, fog banks were moving across the surface of the water, like impeccable glaciers slowly sliding down the mountainside. And off in the distance, I caught sight of a large metal truss bridge hanging perhaps 20 feet over the surface of the water between the fog banks. I immediately swam towards it, hope rising in my chest. When I thought I'd be in earshot, I began shouting again, calling out for help. I looked closer as I came to a stop underneath the bridge, staring up at the rusted underside. There were shapes hanging underneath it. Shapes that... my blood went cold. The shapes were bodies. At least a dozen bodies were chained, hanging upside down under the bridge, swaying in the chill fall breeze. Most were decayed, but several still had skin. One of the newer bodies was a girl, probably no older than 11. I stopped swimming, staring up in horror. The pause caused me to sink, almost dipping below the water. The scraping metal sound, the same sound I'd heard in the dark tunnel, was coming from above the bridge. I felt my entire body tense up. Then I dove down with only half a lung full of air, half choking on lake water. I didn't know what was making that sound, but I knew if I stayed under the bridge, I'd end up just like those poor people. I pulled at the water furiously, diving down towards what I prayed would be my friends. The lake water soon smothered any visibility from the moonlight, leaving me in pitch blackness. I continued to swim, then scan ahead of me for any shimmering water. My body rebelled, forcing me to take in a mouthful of water. I gagged, then turned back to the surface. For 3 strokes, I feared I'd gotten turned around, that I was moving down, or worse, sideways. But no, on the next stroke, I saw a faint flash of moonlight. I swam like mad and burst through the surface. Coughing and sputtering, I threw up into the lake, most of it water. I spun, trying to get my bearings. He was staring at me from where he hung between the bodies under the bridge. I say he, because he was wearing a man's suit coat and slacks as if he were from the late 1800s. But I don't think he was human. Humans have eyes, not pits. Humans have fingers attached to their hands instead of chains. Humans can't smile the way he was smiling. He was hanging from his right hand, chains wrapped around a truss. The chains on the other hand reached out and pushed towards a few of the bodies like a child swatting a wind chime. Then he reached for me. The chains holding him from the bridge slowly uncoiled, lowering him towards the surface of the water. The chains on the other hand spread out, snaking towards me with a supernatural speed. I didn't have a plan. All I knew was that I would do anything rather than be caught. including drown. I took a single sharp gulp of air, then dove down just before the chains reached me. I swam faster and deeper than before, the adrenaline coursing through my veins like fire. 7 strokes, 8, 11, 15, 23, he still hadn't caught me. He was probably waiting for me to re-emerge, but I wasn't going to. I continued to pull, my lungs burning, my already tired arms begging me to stop. My lungs gave an involuntary gulp again, but this time, I was ready and locked my jaws and lips. 38 strokes, 45. I was starting to lose consciousness, but I was fairly certain I was still swimming straight down, at least. There at last, I saw a light. Shimmering, neon green light. Darkness crowded at the edges of my vision, but I blew what little air remained in my lungs out in a bunch of bubbles. The next thing I knew, I was sputtering water and coughing on a cool concrete floor. I spun around and saw Travis, along with all of my friends, each watching me with concerned expressions. Dude, where have you been? Don't dive into that water, I said between retching coughs. Don't go into the water. And that's how they ended the story. Holy shit. So there's so much to unpack from that story. I don't even know. He just like kept going through like different dimensions and something was trying to kill him. And that is absolutely terrifying. I read that story a couple of days ago and it fucking terrified me. I have goosebumps literally all over my body. Oh my God, that is so fucking terrifying. I hate that. I hate that so much. It wasn't so much like a paranormal spooky ghost story, but it was just a really creepy story, and that author is really good. So I'm going to link all of the authors obviously in my description box down below so you guys can go check out their stories, but that one was written really well and super fucking creepy. Now I'm gonna jump over to Instagram and read a couple of your guys' DMs and then I will end the video there. So this one's from somebody on Instagram and they said, "Hey girl, I have a short creepy story for you to read on YouTube. So quick backstory, we are the first owners of this house we live in and it was a custom build. So when I was around 11, I went to bed and one night there was this off feeling. I was awoken in my sleep and my eyes were wide open, but I couldn't move. I felt like someone was staring at me in the corner of the bedroom. This corner always has an off feeling about it. Then whatever that thing was, it grabbed me by my ankle and started to go up my leg, and then when I got to about my knee, I was able to get up and run screaming and crying to my parents. We still live in this house to this day, and weird creepy things still happen occasionally." And then she said, "I just recently found your channel and I love it. Keep up the amazing work." And so I responded and I was like, "Oh my God, that's so fucking creepy. Do you have any other stories?" I do actually. Around the time I was hanging out with my neighbor, who is basically like a sister to me, we were running between my bedroom and the bathroom and they were right next to each other. We were both in my bedroom and went to open my bedroom door and it was locked. I have never locked my door ever since I've lived there. And I asked my neighbor if she locked the door and she swore on her life that she hadn't and tried to convince herself that she did. The next day, she called me and told me how freaked out she was and knows for a fact that she didn't lock my door. So I asked her, I was like, "Oh, is it like one of those push handles? Did you guys just like accidentally lock it without realizing?" And she says, "No, it's a twist one." And I would have heard it lock, so I knew it wasn't her. And that was the last time it happened. I tried to do cleansing things. I looked up on YouTube and I did try to get rid of whatever was in there. Hasn't been very active since. I wouldn't sleep in my room for a month and I made my dad sleep in there and I was like, oh my God, I would do the same thing. So it was like one of those doors that's like not easily like locked. So that's really creepy. And I hate the fact that something like grabbed her and tried to like go up her leg. I hate that so much. That's fucking creepy as shit. Oh my God. So this is from another subscriber and they said, "Hi, I recently came across your YouTube channel and I've been enjoying your videos. I've experienced paranormal stuff my whole life and I wanted to tell you about an experience I had over the summer. So this is what happened. It was one of those nights that I couldn't sleep. I was just laying in bed and when I was falling asleep, the lamp on my bedside table randomly turned on. I looked at my clock and it happened to be around 3 a.m. the time that is known to be the witching hour. One thing to mention is that my cat had knocked over this lamp a week before and it wouldn't turn on after that. The morning that it happened, I was then able to turn the light on, but only once. The lamp stopped working the next day. The next morning, I told my mom about what had happened and she mentioned that she thought she heard the sound of my door open and close around 3 a.m. My mom also told me that she'd had a weird visitation dream from her father the same night. I'm not sure if it's connected, but having my light randomly turn on at 3 a.m. really freaked me out. I have a lot of other stories from when I was younger and lived in that house that was super haunted if you're interested in hearing them. And I said, yes, I'd love to hear more, but they haven't sent anything else. So that's just super creepy and I would hate that. I don't like that at all, especially at 3 a.m. Like, fuck off. Oh my God. So this is where I'm gonna end the video today because we're at 26 minutes, and by the time I edit this all down, it'll probably be at like the 20-minute mark, and I think that's long enough for a video. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you guys did enjoy this video, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below for more content like this. If you guys are enjoying my spooky stories, feel free to email me or message me on Instagram with your own scary stories, your own paranormal stories, or your own let's not meet, just creepy stories in general. I would love to read them. So let me know in the comment section down below, or you guys can DM me or email me, and I will see you guys at the next video. Bye.